Today, I welcome to the Wander World School and Slow Family Travel podcast, Daniela. Welcome to the show. Please tell me more about you and your family.
Hi, SUZY. Thank you so much for having me. My husband, Fernando, and I started traveling 15 years ago. We are originally from Venezuela, but we left in 2011 just with the dream of traveling the world. And that is what we did together, just as a couple. When we had our first kid, our daughter, Bianca, people thought we were going to stop, but we wanted to include her and keep going. So instead of stopping, we did a slow transition. We bought a camper van. When she was 1, we started traveling with her. We traveled 3 years through Europe. And in the middle of the trip, we got our second kid, Lucas. We made it on the road and went back to Spain, where we did like a little bit of a base camp for the kids. And then we have been traveling the past 6 years. Right now, we have a base camp more in Vietnam, which we loved. And we host hubs there. So we do world schooling hubs in an island called Phu Quoc in Vietnam. That has been our past 2 years there in Asia, especially in Vietnam.
I'm excited to learn more about your World School offerings. But before we dive into that, I'd love to hear more about your personal travel origin story. You mentioned leaving Venezuela many years ago, but what is one of your earliest travel memories?
Okay, so when we got married, we were really young. We traveled around our country. We went to the Amazons and did all these jungles and crazy things that it's better to do without the kids.
Sure.
So we traveled like, I don't know, around 40 countries, just the two of us. It was amazing, just being the two of us.
There are definitely trips that are much easier either without children or especially young children. Remind me of the ages of your children.
My kids are 6 and 4. Bianca is 6 and Lucas is 4.
Mine are similar, 5 and 8. So in that same range. And I do relate to some of the joys and challenges of traveling with children. And I compare it to some of our travels before kids. And it's definitely different, but has its joys as well. You mentioned some of those early travels. How has that shaped your travel philosophies now since you do have a family?
It's crazy because we have always traveled as backpackers. We don't travel with suitcases. We thought, okay, now that we have kids, things are going to change. We need so many things. But we haven't changed that. We kept the same minimalistic approach on our travels. We only have 3 backpacks, like carry-ons and the laptop that we need to work with. We have just learned that you don't need that much clothes or material things. Whenever we go, we can find things. So for me, it has been impressive how we could manage to add our kids to the same way of traveling. But obviously, you need more planning. Before, it was just us looking for museums or restaurants. And now we need to find playgrounds. Where's the playground? We need to find places for the kids. So that will be the main change. It's more about them than us, honestly.
What are some of the highlights from those 3 years in the camper van around Europe?
We love Portugal. We also love Slovenia because we're all about nature. The cities and capitals feel too busy for us. So we really love nature. Slovenia was one of the highlights on that trip. If we talk about experiences, I would say France because it's where we found out I was pregnant with my second kid. So it was crazy. It was during COVID. We were in this old camper van from 1982. It was older than us, but I was pregnant. What do we do? Do we go back? It was a crazy time during COVID, but we kept going. But when I look back, just the experience of being pregnant in a different country during COVID, it was just crazy, but it was beautiful.
Was he born in a country in Europe along the way?
In Spain, my husband is half Spanish. So we
Oh,
all have the Spanish passports.
I see.
And Spain is like our home base. We had Bianca in Granada. Then we said, let's have him in the same place, same hospital, because if we need papers, we need to go to the same place. They're both from Granada, Spain.
We live about half the year in Sevilla, so we've been to Granada a few times, and it's beautiful with the hills and the mountains. We skied once, so yeah, it's a beautiful place to be. With newborns, I'm sure it's nice to be somewhere familiar. You have lots of connections with Europe. Where did the love for Asia come into play? You've been spending time there and running pop ups there.
When we were in our 20s, 25, 26, we wanted to do something exotic. People ask us if we have traveled South America, and even though we're from Venezuela, but it's just because it feels like the same. No, if you go to Colombia or Ecuador, for us, it's the same food, the same people, the same language. So what feels exotic was Asia, going to Asia. So we did it when we were like in our 20s. And we just fell in love. And still, we are so connected to Asia. The way the people are, they're so kind. And I don't know, the food, the culture. We felt some type of connection with Asia. And we went back to Europe because we were working, we were having the kids. But one day I remember we said, like, why don't we go with the kids? We had this feeling like, maybe it's the time, maybe we should go. And we sold the camper van and we went and it felt the same. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, when we landed from Spain to Hanoi, it was crazy. Like, what did we do? Because it's chaotic, the traffic and the
Yes.
motorbikes and it's chaos. But then months later, my husband and I sat down and said, you know what? I'm going to tell you something. The first day that we landed, I regret it so much. It was like, mate. But we didn't say anything at the moment. We kept going and it was the best.
Those first couple days can be very tough, which is one reason I like slow travel, traveling for longer periods that gives you more time to adjust. What are your goals for traveling as a family or as an individual?
So, okay, in this first trip that we did to Asia, which I consider was the first family thing that we did as a four, we had a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and it was challenging. At the beginning, we made a lot of mistakes. So the first mistake was wanting to see everything in a short amount of time. We were just like, okay, let's go to this place 3 days, and then let's go to this place 4 days. And we were moving so much, kids were exhausted. There wasn't a good dynamic. That is when we said we need to stop. We need to really enjoy the places. The kids need to rest, have a proper routine. That is when we said we're spending now about 2-3 months in each place. It changed so much. So I will say our goal now is not seeing the places, but also having a good experience as a family, having harmony and balance between food and sleep. That for me is the most important thing right now.
Absolutely. It is a balance between all the different people involved in a new environment. Finding what works best as a family can be a bit of a process. Is there any favorite memory from your recent travels that you'd be able to highlight?
Oh, so many. I will tell you that my favorite memory was in Indonesia, in Gili Air, which is part of the Gili Islands. So we swam with wild turtles. That is one of the highlights and one of the things my daughter remembers the most. You can just walk from the shore and see the turtles and swim with them. It was amazing. The second place would be seeing the southern lights in New Zealand. That experience, it was unexpected. We were not looking for them. They were not supposed to happen in the place that we were at the moment. And it happened as a surprise. It was wow, like the most amazing night ever.
I've yet to see even the Northern Lights, so I can imagine how interesting it would be to be way far south and be experiencing those. I know you mentioned your kids are still a little young and they've been traveling for almost all their life. What do they think about traveling?
I don't think they see it as traveling. This is their life. We were talking, and maybe this is just too normal for them right now. They don't feel that surprised, I will say. For example, when we were in New Zealand, we spent 8 months there, which is a long time for us to be in a place, but we loved it so much. We just couldn't leave. And Bianca came to me and said, like, Mom, when are we changing countries? We have been here too long. I want to go to another country. Like if she was telling me, I want to go to the other town. So for them, the world is just their playground. They have no, oh, we're traveling, or they just feel that this is a normal life, moving from country to country and experiencing and meeting people. So I don't think they can compare what it's like to having that, let's say, a life with a routine and just being traveling the whole time.
Hmm. You bring up a good point. Sometimes I think about what our kids think when they're traveling and going to new places. I don't expect my kids to be grateful every day and say, Mom, thank you for showing me this amazing location. I more look for clues that they're enjoying where we're at, or when they're like, that was really fun. This is a good sign. What does schooling and learning look like for your family at this stage?
Our kids are really young, so we're just starting with traditional schooling. For example, Bianca is 6. She knows how to write, how to read, because we do these basic things. But I always tell people that what she's learning during our trip has so much more value. We were learning about volcanoes in Yellowstone last week, and we were learning about mammals and animals by looking at them. Look at this bison, look at this wolf. For me, it's about learning in the moment where we are. Probably later, I will say that we will find more resources. But right now, they're very young and we do it very casually, just learning about the environment, the places that we at, what they really are interested about.
I love the concept of learning where you can see what's happening in front of you. You have volcanoes in
Mhm.
Yellowstone. Sounds like a great example. So, you mentioned that you have some World School opportunities around the world. Can you tell me more about those hubs?
The idea of Better Together was born in New Zealand. We were 8 months, just the four of us, meeting casual, doing casual play dates on a playground. We were alone all the time. The kids got bored. They were bored, and it was like we had to work and entertain them and be teachers and be their friends. At a moment, my husband and I gave up. And we said, no, we need to go back. We are too tired. This is too much on us. But then we said, let's try something else. Let's try finding a community. We were looking, we were researching, and there wasn't something that we could relate. We didn't find something that was what we wanted at that moment. It was a crazy idea. And we just said, let's create one. We can do it. We have been traveling so much. We're a family. We know what families want. And we started thinking what was our favorite place in Asia that it will be good for kids and families and stuff. And that is when we chose Phu Quoc in Vietnam. We went there. And I always tell people that I remember this. There's a movie, I don't remember the name, but there's a line that says, if you build it, they will come. It's the Field of Dream or
Yeah,
something like.
yes, Field of Dreams.
At the beginning, I was like, who's gonna come? This is a night in Vietnam. But then we started seeing that there are so many families that feel the same way. And we started doing it. People came, and it's just our way of life right now. It's the perfect balance. It's being in a place that we love, in a place that we feel comfortable. We love Vietnam, and just still having people around and meeting people from all over the world and different cultures. We did a first season last year, 6 hubs in Vietnam, one each month. And we welcome in total more than 70 families from so many places. And it's just something that we loved so much. We said, let's do it again. And now we're doing it again. Last year, we did a pop up in Japan, which we love. And this time, we're also including Spain. We're going to Spain to visit family for 3 months, and we're going to take 2 weeks to do a hub in Granada. We'll combine it with Spanish classes because we're Spanish teachers. We teach Spanish online. And we said, let's do a Spanish immersion program where kids can learn in the morning and then go out in the afternoon. We can go out together and learn too. We're going to have a second season of the Better Together hubs from September till May next year.
That's amazing. Which months are you going to be in which location?
The Granada hub will be end of September, September 25th. And then we'll travel to Vietnam. We'll start October, November, December in Vietnam. We'll have a break January and February because that is when the new year for them is. They call it the Tet. It's super busy. We tried it last year and it was too much. So we said, let's not do it during the high season. And then we're back in Phu Quoc for March and April. That will be the last 2 in Phu Quoc. And in May, we'll do Osaka, Japan. And in Osaka, we have this Japanese family. We're really close with them. We stayed with them for 3 months the first time we went. And then this past time we went for a month. So we do activities with them. They do calligraphy with us. They do cooking classes. They do origami. So because we experience this Japanese culture with them, we wanted to show it to the families as well, not only being like tourists in Japan, but experiencing what it's like being with a Japanese family. So we're repeating that as well in Osaka in May.
I mentioned at the pop-up right now, and there was a family that spent, I think, about 2 months in Japan, and they said Osaka was one of their favorite places. So I can imagine that would be a lovely place to share time with other families. From this last
It
year
was.
of hubs, which sounds really busy if you had over 70, 75 families together, is there a memorable moment that comes to mind that you'd like to share?
The last hub that we had was in April, and it was the busiest. Not before we had 10, 12, 13 families, but we could see how it was growing. I remember sitting down one day and seeing all the families. We were 20 families in April, seeing all the kids playing. And we had like women's circle, and we were going to yoga, and that's we're going for beers at night or having pool tournaments. Everything is beautiful, but just sitting down and saying, wow, we built this. It was so rewarding. And people coming to you and say, this is so nice. It's such a safe place for my kids, and they're having fun. It's just that feeling of saying there's so many people that feel like us. And for us to bring them all together here, we felt, wow, this is something special. It was
Mm.
really an accomplishment that we felt at that moment.
A lot of planning, putting this together, and then to have families enjoy it is, I'm sure, a lovely
Yeah.
feeling. What were the ages of the children during the different hubs last year?
We've had all ages from babies. Obviously, they were with their parents, but in the activities, kids from like 3 years old to 15 was the oldest, 15, 16. And we noticed that there are always three groups from 2 to 4, 5 to 7 years old, and the preteens and teenagers. We do activities for all of them. For the younger kids, we focus more on crafting and coloring. Since we've had older kids later, in February, March, and April, we started doing this social project. So we were helping association for kids in Vietnam who are in a unprivileged situation, so we were going with the kids from the hub to teach English, and we did a fundraising fair to raise money to bring food and clothes. We have kids from different ages and focus on different aspects they need. For preteens or teenage, they are not just tourists in a place, but they learn about the needs or the troubles of the things, not only in Vietnam, but all of Southeast Asia, the plastic. And so we focus a lot on that.
Is this more of a drop-off hub where the students are in a classroom, or are the families working together, or is there options for both?
Last season, we didn't have a drop off, and families kept coming to us and saying, like, when are you gonna open a drop off option? We need it because my husband and I both work online, and sometimes it's hard. I'm working, he's with the kids, he's working, I'm with the kids. So the other one is stressed out or so we didn't have a drop-off option last season, but we're doing it right now. We spoke with the woman from the hotel. We stayed all in the same resort. So that is the main thing. We have the community in the same resort. The owner is super open to having families. So I went with her and I told her, what if we build a room, like a classroom for the kids where they can play and we can do science? And she said, yeah, do it. So for this season, we are having a drop-off program where kids from 3 to 9 can be in the program. The teenagers can be on their own on the hotel, but the drop-off program will be in a special place in the resort.
That sounds great to have that opportunity for kids to do kid things, and parents, if they need to work, gives families a little bit of a break and kids to have some independent time. I appreciate you sharing a little more about how you juggle the logistical part of working online, teaching Spanish with parenting. You mentioned you fund your travels through online Spanish teaching. Tell me more about that experience. I've taken online Spanish classes. I'm curious to hear from your side what it's like to teach online.
When we first traveling, we were just kids and we were working in every places that we went to. So when we were in Dublin, we were working on a store, and we went to Spain, and then we were working like collecting fruits. So we were doing anything to get money, basically. But then we said, we need to find something on the internet. I was working in the reception of a hotel. And when people heard me speaking Spanish, they will come and say, you teach me, blah, blah. So I was the receptionist slash Spanish teacher in the hotel. And that's when I told Fernando, like, we have something that is valuable and many people would like to learn, and it's Spanish. Let's use it. We did a master to become teachers, and we have been doing it for 7 years. The trickiest part is finding good internet. When you have the responsibility, everything has to work perfectly. The internet has to be good. So your students don't go and say, you know what? I'm going to get a teacher with a house that is not moving around the world. It's hard because they're in the same house, the same internet, and you are the one changing. For example, in New Zealand, it was super challenging because the hours were crazy. And we had to be like, okay, having a class at midnight, at 5 in the morning, because you cannot tell your student to move their schedule. You have to adjust to them. We're actually right now at one of my students' house. She invited me. We're doing a trip around the US, visiting families from the hubs and students. So we have been like a very social trip.
That sounds amazing to connect in person with people you've taught online and then spend time with in Vietnam. As someone who's taken one-on-one classes online, is there anything that we should know? Are there certain companies you would recommend?
I work with Verbling, and Verbling is really good. Verbling is really fair, and it's a good platform to work with. I was working with italki, but italki kept raising the fees for teachers. And right now, it's not worth it. And when it comes to apps, because everybody does Duolingo, every time I open a class with a new student, I say, "Hi, have you studied Spanish before?" With Duolingo. It's like playing, but people don't really learn with Duolingo. You need to find something that teaches you grammar. And not only playing, you can get vocabulary, but you will not learn with that.
I stopped using Duolingo because it was getting annoying. I wasn't learning anything that felt useful for real life conversations. That really comes from having actual conversations with Spanish speaking teachers, whether that's online or in person if you can arrange it. I'm glad you're doing that opportunity in Granada to have the language piece of it. I think that's one reason we've landed in Spain, focusing on language acquisition at this age for my children. They are soaking up languages, and I really want to have that strong foundation. Do you speak Spanish as a family, and then they get English when you're in English-speaking countries, or how have you balanced language
Wow.
teaching for your children?
This is funny because when we left Spain, they only spoke Spanish. Bianca was 4.5 at that time. And we started traveling and we were like, okay, you need to learn English. We need to be English teachers, even though it's not our native language, but we need to teach them how to communicate. And Bianca was like, no, I don't want to learn anything. People can speak Spanish to me. And I say, no, but okay, you will find out yourself. After we did the first trip in Vietnam, we landed in Thailand and met this really nice English family. And they had a 6 years old, a girl. And Bianca was trying to play, and obviously the girl didn't know Spanish. And that is when she realized that she needed to learn English. So what we did is that we invested 6 months and did everything in English. So if they want to watch a movie, it has to be in English. But we don't understand. I'm sorry. They only get a few hours a week of screen time. But every time they did it, had to be in English. The bedtime stories were in English. We spent 6 months immersed. Even though we're not native, we spent a lot of time with this English family. Within 2 months, our kids were speaking English. And now Lucas speaks more English than Spanish.
That's
Now we have to.
fascinating to see that
Mhm.
evolution. But that's
Yeah.
inspiring. I think there are families who are maybe nervous about incorporating a second language, especially if it's not native to either one of the parents. And to know that it doesn't take that many months of immersion to kickstart that learning journey. And having that motivation from her to make a friend that speaks English, I can see how that can really get a young person inspired to spend more time in a new language. I think there's a appeal to teaching a language online. Is that enough to be able to fund your travels? And do you recommend people get into that if they don't necessarily have a background in teaching a language? English is a sought after language. Would it be the same for someone that knows English
It is very good. We travel and lived just teaching for 7 years, even with the kids later on. I have students that have been with me for almost 5 years now. And this student that I am with right now in her house, she has been with me for 2 years. If you have the people that are like constant and they want to be with you, then you have a steady income. The thing is that we don't know about anything else. We don't know about software or developing or technology. This was the only thing we naturally have. What I would say it's more difficult about English is that the people that would like to learn English, people from South America, Asia, the incomes are not so high in Australia, the US, or even Europe. People that are learning Spanish, they could afford, let's say, pay for the highest rates in classes than the countries that
Mhm.
are learning English. Salaries are higher than in places like Latin America, Asia, or Africa. It's a reality. People that are learning English, I think, will be a little bit harder. This is just my perception of things, but I can be
Mhm.
wrong.
Any other financial advice to others looking to start traveling more?
We always tell people that it's not about how much you make, it's about how much you spend. We don't buy souvenirs. It's about the experiences more than the things that we buy. Or if we were to do this staying in hotels all the time, we wouldn't be able to do it. We also find alternative options. If you go to places like Japan, Australia, New Zealand, or the US, there are so many tools right now, like house sitting, workaway, or couch surfing, and we have done them all. We have done them all. In Japan, we did couch surfing, and that is how we found the family that we stay with. They were just a Japanese family that wanted that their kid had more cultural exchange, and they were happy to have us there. We were cooking with them and eating with them. I would say that it's even nicer doing this than staying in a hotel on your own. The other day, we were in a house sit in Utah, and the neighbors came. They introduced themselves, and we told them our story. They were like, wow, do you want to come for dinner? And so when you do these things, you save money because you're not paying for accommodation, which is the highest expense that you can have. But then you meet people and you get to experience what it's like having neighbors and living with a family that has a different culture. Don't be afraid of sharing time with the locals and using these
Mm.
tools.
I did couch surfing many years ago in Istanbul, Turkey, and had this amazing experience with the woman I stayed with, and we kept in touch. So I kind of forgot about that as a resource. You also mentioned earlier you travel quite light, which sounds like helps save on money by not checking bags. This last trip, we did have to check a bag and it adds up quickly. Are there any struggles or challenges that you've been experiencing with your hub? And then we'll also talk about the positive things.
I will say it is a lot of work. And obviously, going to a country where it's not the same language, not the same culture, we have faced many challenges. I'm a person that has to be on time for everything. And if it's 5 minutes before, you're already late. But this is an island life. So people are relaxing, fishing, and living a relaxed life. Our main goal is that when people go there, they don't think about anything because traveling is so stressful that when families go to the hubs, the goal is that they just relax and enjoy. And we take care of everything on the back transportation and all the activities and entertainment. So it's a lot on us. But especially because when things are out of our control, it's hard. Calling the transport and saying, like, you're 5 minutes late. Oh, sorry, I was talking to my wife. This challenge of organizing is a lot. It's stressful, it's rewarding, but it's very stressful. I won't lie.
Do you feel that going into your second year of planning these opportunities, has it been a little smoother?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Even the first month, we had October, November, December. Then we took a break and then we start again. And it was so different. My first approach with the locals and stuff. The second time, I was like, okay, you need to be here at 8:30 when we needed the transport at 9. So I started planning in advance and understanding how they work. You need to be respectful in this way. And right now, we understand them so much. It's so much easier.
And what resources have been helpful for your family, either for traveling or for your hub?
We're really bad with technology. We only have our Instagram and we don't do it very frequently. But we use The typical tools we use, Skyscanner or Google Flights. The thing with Asia is that you feel relaxed because you can stay anywhere. If you go to Bangkok or a place in Thailand, you know that hotels are all unaffordable. And so you can choose. What we like about Asia is that we feel like the money that we make, we can enjoy it. We can do so many things that we just feel economically relaxed. But when we go to places like Australia, New Zealand, the US, if you miss having 1 day or 2 days and have to pay for hotels, it happened to us the other day. It was like $150 for one night. That is a week in Asia or 10 days. It is so cheap. And so we had to plan with couch surfing and trusted house sitter and work away with a lot of time when we go to these, let's say, more expensive countries.
I agree that price differences can be shocking from country to country and can certainly help your money go further in certain locations. What are some of the price points for the hubs in
Ah,
Vietnam? Does it depend on the size of the family or the accommodation?
yeah. We have a joining fee. It's 500 euros per the whole family. And this is for families up to 3 kids. So let's say a family of 5. And after that is $100 per kid. But this includes all of the activities, all of our organization, and just being part of the community. We have an itinerary of like 3, 4 activities per day that people can choose from to participate or not. And we have yoga, pickleball, Vietnamese classes, or different activities every day. We also do excursions. We do to the water parks. We go to the amusement park, the bee farm, and the families can choose which one they want to go to. We only have one joining fee. The accommodation is in a resort, and we have a really good deal with the owner. And when people write them on our behalf saying, I'm coming for the hubs, she drops the price a lot. It's very affordable to be there for a month or 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Do families get to decide how long they come for?
We have specific dates for each hub. For example, in March, we have from the 5th of March to the 25th of March. You can come for as long as you want, but the journey fee is the same. If people stay for like more time in the resort, then it would require to join the next hub. So if people stay for April, then you will have to be part of the hub as well. That is the deal we have with the owner.
I think it's helpful when families plan to start around the same time. It gives you longer time frames where the families are together. The kids can build more connection with each other. This has been really
That's
great to hear more about your family, your travel adventures, and the opportunities you offer between Vietnam and Spain. Where can people find you to learn more?
our main social media is Facebook. We have a group called worldschooling hubs, Better Together. There we post all the information. We also have a website, www.bettertogetherhubs.com. And we have an Instagram with the same name, at Better Together Hubs.
I'll make sure to link all that in the show notes so people can reach out to you to get more information.
Thank you so much, Susie, for having me. I love speaking about traveling and giving tools. And if it helps somebody to lose that fear of going out with your kids, it is possible, it is beautiful, and it's not easy. You have to be 24/7 parent, entertainer, teacher. What is the most rewarding experience you can have as a family?
That's lovely to end on. Thank you so much.
Susie, thank you so much.